It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week we've got the official Deadpool and Wolverine popcorn bucket, Mike, and it is exactly what someone else kind of said it was going to be. So,
yeah, I was surprised. I had to kind of look over the post, like, oh, is this a repost? Yeah. Is this a fake? Is this
what has AI? AI has really put us in a weird place for everything. So we have to triple check what we're doing.
But it is real. And we will talk about it.
It's there's another one being teased as well. So I think every movie theater is going to have their own variations on this thing, but we'll talk about the official one from Marvel, I suppose. Giancarlo Esposito, the ultimate villain, I guess, of every franchise people love for the past 10 years, is joining the MCU proper, and we've got an on-set photo and some other stuff we'll talk about with him. James Gunn confirms Deathstroke will be in the DCU, kind of. He's on social media again, Mike. I know you're surprised. He responded with an emoji, so people are like, "This is confirmation here." So we're gonna look into it. But I would say, is this like our 8th Deathstroke in the past 10 years as well?
Maybe it feels like it, and you got to be careful with those emoji responses. I think there is literal legal case law out there in the world where like a contractor or somebody got sued because they sent over a thumbs up emoji, which the client interpreted as like, okay, yes, I'm going to be there and I'm going to do this job for this amount of money that you just sent over. Whereas the contractor was arguing like, no, I send the thumbs up just to let people know I got the message and I read it. And they went to court for it. So, yes, what I'm saying is James Gunn's emojis are legally binding here in the United States, and we're just going to have to live with that.
Threads, the social media app made exclusively for James Gunn, is where you're going to get this information as well. So, other than the Zack Snyder social media app Vero, so we'll cover that.
The Vero. There's another. I didn't even think I was going to bring this up, but there's another social media thing floating around for artists right now. I think it's called Cara, Cara, or Cava, Cav.
Yeah, I'm kidding. But yeah.
But it's this. I swear this happens like every other year, where half the people I follow just be like, "Oh, I just made a new account on XYZ. You can come catch me there now. I probably won't be posting here much anymore." And then nobody ever goes. They come back, and it's like nothing ever changed. Yeah. I mean, I do get the due diligence of like whenever there's a new social media app, go grab your handle, just in case, because you never know. If something blows up, you'll have it locked down. And they're going to this new one for good reason, because I guess it's being built from the ground up to protect your content from being scraped from or used for AI and scraped, because they're using some of those they're using those like poison pill things on images that's like getting baked into the software of the app. Yeah. So I think all that's really, really cool. But like, man, I feel like I'm past that stage of my life where I can just like actively jump onto the next thing and put my heart and soul into it, Well,
since Twitter has officially changed its URL to X now, right? That URL is gone. I don't even go there. I don't even trust sources there anymore. It's devolved. I have a Blue Sky handle, but I don't know what to do with a Blue Sky handle. There's a thing called Mastodon. There's the Fediverse, which is supposed to be everything coming together. So I don't know either, but it's just nice to be in those like real familiar homes, right? When you get on social media, like, I know how this app works. I know what to expect here. Someone poked me on Facebook. That'll bring back some old memories.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't need to shill or promote for the mega corporation. But Threads has at least been kind of a nice, somewhat return to what Twitter used to be. I think people are just more casual when they don't have to attach a post to like an image or a story or a video. So you're kind of just getting your literally you can get the exact same audience that you have on Instagram. I think there's like a button which is like follow everyone that you are on Instagram.
So I will say the one thing I do dislike is that exact thing, is that it's a Facebook, Instagram, Threads thing where like I'm getting threads pushed to me in Instagram or Facebook. Like they're all like, I don't want to cross pollinate these. I want to be on one for a reason. I don't want to see the other ones. But
Oh, I get that. I mean, from day one, as soon as Facebook started putting stories in there, I refused to tap on it. I was like, I'm never going to look at a story in Facebook, and I refuse to engage with it in any way because I don't want them to have the metric that this user tapped on it. I hope that my protesting would have removed it from the app entirely. But yeah, it's weird. It just seems like if you were to merge Instagram and Threads together, it's literally just Facebook. So it's weird over there in Meta World. That's why you should just use the classic RSS URL in the internet and just get podcasts delivered to whatever device you like.
I love RSS feeds. They are the quickest way to disseminate information as fast as you need it. So I would agree with that. I'm going to let you start off, Mike, here, because mine actually leads into our first topic somehow, some way. So I'm going to let you start off with what you've been doing this week.
Also, this is like the first time in a while you've been able to watch things this week. What do we used to call this segment in the pandemic? I don't remember. The Quarren stream. That's what it was.
Yeah.
You're falling back on your old patterns here.
And in true Chris fashion, it's nothing new. It's all revisiting things I just haven't watched in forever, it feels like. So that's what we'll talk about it. But you I assume you're talking. You're going to talk about Reacher. I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. And I'm assuming it's the TV series, not the movie, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is to purely benefit my father, who has been talking about the character of Jack Reacher, I feel like, for a decade now, ever since they cast the movie with Tom Cruise. And he was like, I read those books. That character is supposed to be a gigantic man, and Tom Cruise is the opposite of that. And then he begrudgingly watched the movies, and he was like, yeah, they're okay, but it's just not Jack Reacher. So I do understand his annoyance. But my parents were just here for the baby shower a couple weeks ago, and Reacher popped up again as a topic. I don't remember how. We were probably just talking about stuff we were watching. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my father a solid. Father's Day is coming up here soon. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch the first season of Reacher. So I don't know if my wife was begrudgingly accepting her fate that we were watching the first season of Reacher, but we had a pretty good time. I feel like Amazon Prime has this niche of kind of taking like the CBS nighttime drama and kind of injecting a little bit more money into it, scaling the episodes back, throwing in a couple curse words and some side nudity, and they are kind of creating like a juiced up like NCIS or, a Law and Order with a little bit of edge unratedness to it. Like they have like the Bosches, they have something. Shows. Yeah, they have dad shows. And they're great at them. Yeah. And Reacher is the epitome of a dad show, but it's entertaining because if you've ever kind of watched One Punch Man, Reacher is kind of like a live action One Punch Man. He's just this giant mountain of a man who has an extremely sophisticated set of skills that he learned in the army, and he's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes with like these giant pythons on his torso. And it's fun just watching the creator of the show, just how do we put this character in situations where he can just fight people and pummel them to the ground.
Oh man.
And it's entertaining.
It's the male fantasy TV show come to life. Right
exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. But even my wife had a good time watching it.
Yeah, and nothing against it.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like a problem solving of just like we have an unstoppable character, but we need to put hurdles in his way and challenges, or we don't have a story here. So routinely they have to give like the thugs that he beat up like crowbars or, big blunt objects that they can even go toe to toe with Reacher. And then I kept thinking the whole time, the only thing I knew about the actor that plays Reacher was like he wants to be Batman someday.
Yeah.
And people have been talking about it. So the whole time I've been watching this first season, I was just like, yeah, he could be Batman. He's huge. Like, he would fill out the suit. You could definitely see him go toe-to-toe with goons in Gotham.
So I'm going to fill you in, because I know Alan Richardson. He's he's big right now, both literally and figuratively. Very huge man. He was Aquaman in Smallville, if you remember.
I think this is one thing that has drawn my wife to the show.
Yeah,
It's like,
and then
that guy used to be Aquaman.
And then he played Hawk in Titans, the HBO Max series.
Oh,
Titans.
he was Hawk of Hawk and Dove.
So he has a history of that. And then for you, Mike, he actually played Raphael in the Bay Ninja Turtles movies as well. That's like, he is, despite the fact he's built like a football player and a wrestler, he is in all these nerdy things. Leading
well,
up to
I had
this.
no idea he was Raph. Oh, I'm gonna have to rewatch those movies now.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see him being Batman. He even kind of has this kind of brooding yet kind of charming side that I think could work well for like a Bruce Wayne. You know, depending on if Gunn wants his like Bruce Wayne like out in the world like doing business stuff. I think he could handle that too. And I could just see a lot of the Reacher stuff being brought into the show of just like Bruce Wayne walks into a room and he's a giant and people have to listen to him, and that's scary. But the show's good. I mean, it's obviously it's not, you know, it's not the best crime drama I've ever watched. It's not the most tantalizing mystery I've ever seen solved. But you know, it's just good enough to wear away a weekend. So go check out Reacher.
Have you watched all of it? The 2 seasons?
I watched the whole first season. We started watching the second season, which no complaints. It seems to be a very consistent show. But we also are dabbling in some other things on streaming right now, so it'll probably take a little bit longer to go through season 2.
So the one thing I do know, because Reacher pops up and all this stuff because of like the roles he's played and everything when I'm doing show notes. However, they have cast an even bigger man than Jack Reacher and Al Richardson in season 3. Like I think the guy's 7 foot tall. Like literally 7 foot tall for season 3. So I'm excited for that to come out and you to tell me how big this man really is.
Yep. This is great. This is why I bring stuff up on the show, because I learn new things, and also you were the first person to tell me that it was confirmed for a season 3, which is great, because now living in a streaming landscape, especially with Netflix, if I'm already invested in a show and watching it, I will not Google if it was renewed, because if it was canceled, the steam for me wanting to finish it will just evaporate, and I will not finish the rest of the show. So now it sounds like full bore ahead, getting ready for
it's doing great. It's really capturing probably that 45+ market of dads out there. So
he is so gigantic. Like I never thought like there'd just be appeal to just putting the largest person I've seen on screen before and just throwing him in a prison shower and watching him beat people up. Like it's awesome. It's kind of it's reminiscent of when you see kind of some of the action scenes in any like Captain America movie where he just puts his boot to a character and they fly across the room. You know?
Well, so he's also in Fast X was the last thing I saw him in, which, you know.
Oh, he is.
Did you watch Fast X? I couldn't remember if you watched
it. Is he like a henchman or something in it?
No, he's after Brie Larson's job. He's now like the FBI person who turns evil at the end of the movie.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine.
So they're like his physical structure, I'm like, yeah, they're gonna put him in a Fast movie because he's built like everyone in those Fast movies. They're muscle cars and muscle jockeys. So
he is like the most unknown superhero comic book action movie actor out there right now. It's like maybe this is like his agents and his managers. They're just setting all of the moves in place. Yeah. It's like, we're getting you out there. We have you in all of these franchises, and then, you know, maybe he lands the Batman role, and then his career, like, he's the next Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but yeah, maybe he is, you know, the next big American action star. You know, we Bruce Willis is retired. Jason Statham's not American, but you know, like all those guys, like they're getting up there in age, right? He's a young guy. He's got to come in and take those roles. So
well, it was funny. I mean, not to take anything away from Arnold Schwarzenegger, but we finally sat down and watched Terminator 2: Judgment Day for the first time in a long time last night. And you know, when these Terminators come back in time, they're naked. There's always a gratuitous shot of them like standing up in the camera. I've been watching a lot of side nudity this weekend. And I was just like, oh man, I don't think Arnold at his prime, which you might even consider the Terminator franchise maybe the prime of his physicality. It's like, I don't think he's bigger than Reacher, which I thought was pretty crazy. So I don't know. Maybe there's advancements in the gym that has happened since then.
I think I will say, my last bit of this would be like, there's a difference between physical, like screen physicality versus Arnold, who was actually a bodybuilder.
Oh
like,
yeah, no,
so,
yeah.
So
I'm glad you brought that up because I don't want anyone knocking on my door like annihilating.
Arnold skipped leg day, and we all know it, so it's fine. In that regard, but you bring up Terminator 2, and what I've been doing, I'm like, I bought a tube TV several weeks ago, a couple months ago, maybe, a big one. So I plugged in my 360, my Xbox 360 that has those old RGB cables in the back, right? And downloaded Plex, which is still available on Xbox 360, and started rewatching movies I hadn't seen in forever on there while I was working around the house. And like, it's just something about watching old films on like a tube, like when pixels didn't matter, right? Like you didn't have pixels on this, and these movies weren't made with pixels in mind; they were made with film in mind.
You were just happy it was in color.
Yeah,
you were just happy it was in color, and you could get this TV down into your basement.
Exactly. So I turned on Raiders of the Lost Ark this week, and one thing I noticed, all four movies I'm going to mention here, audio mixing. When it's quiet and dialogue is quiet, when it's actions, it's loud through the roof, exists through all four of these movies, Mike. Like I'm like over there like changing the volume on the TV every couple minutes because I can't hear it or it's too loud. Do you remember doing that?
It's funny. It's funny that you bring that up because for some reason, I thought that was more of a modern problem. I thought that once everyone went flat screen and all of these speakers got, embedded into the back of the television, or they were just wanting consumers to buy sound bars, I thought that was causing the problem of the big kind of gap between quiet and loud.
No.
And I feel like I don't remember doing that as a kid, but maybe I did, and I just blocked it out. Like I said, we were just happy to be watching TV.
I remember my mom yelling at my dad, "Turn down the damn TV." And then it'd be way too quiet to hear anything, so he'd turn it back up, and it just would go on forever. So I mean, nothing against it; it just happens. But Raiders of the Lost Ark, really fun to watch on there. One of the cool things, and I was talking, sent a photo to Superfan Jim. He's like, he brought up the thing like, back then there wasn't CGI, right? They had to hide the fishing wire and all the other stuff with the camera. And I was like, yeah, because obviously when you watch this, it's a little blurry because that's what the TVs were kind of back then. So it was fun to watch that. Then I dove into something related to the show, Mike. Batman Begins. When's the last time you watched Batman Begins?
It's been a while. Even when that trilogy was still hot out there on the Blu-ray DVD landscape, I would usually just go, no, let's just watch the Joker one.
Yeah, exactly. And Batman Begins is very drastically different than The Dark Knight, right? Like Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan was diving into his first superhero film. It felt comic booky, right? There's a big, huge, was it train railway? Like they're building in the city for Wayne stuff. He's doing the whole thing, which Iron Man borrowed a lot of this. He's like, oh, I'm in the tech space with Morgan Freeman. What's all this stuff? Oh, we made it for, the military, but they didn't want it. He's like, well, I'll take it, kind of things. To see Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, it really was wild. But I also forgot how much they leaned into the horror in Batman Begins with the Scarecrow as the villain for some of it. And like the nightmare stuff, like, the citizens seeing Batman with the glowy eyes, or there's I don't know if you remember when Batman gave the Scarecrow his own medicine, like he was looking at him like he was a black demon, like they had like physical black demon in it. So I had a really good time revisiting Batman Begins because it is very much not the opposite, but very like leans into the fantasy of comic books, whereas The Dark Knight literally just goes the other direction. And I'm like, oh, there's a very much a line down the middle of what Christopher Nolan was doing and then what he wanted to do with that. Moving on from that, yesterday to wrap up the evening, I watched The Rock with Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage. And one
of the best action movies of my childhood.
Exactly. This was the last movie I saw at the drive-in theater in our town before they closed it down. I always loved the theory that this is an unofficial James Bond sequel because it lines up when Sean Connery was James Bond, and like the years.
Well, I've never heard that before. I should I should rewatch it with that in mind.
Yeah, because essentially he's a British SAS agent who stole some microfilm and got caught on the Canadian government border, and he's the only person who's ever escaped Alcatraz. So, like, when you watch it and he gives you all these years and all this stuff, you're like, oh, this, like, literally, if they wanted to say this is James Bond, Sean Connery returning, it lines up, and it's wild how it does that. But Nicolas Cage, this is a Michael Bay film, right? Everyone, and boy, he set himself up for success or failure. I don't know which one, very early on in this movie, because I'm like, oh, this is just we're going in, we're doing action scenes, obviously leaning into a lot of the military stuff. Nicolas Cage, this is where he starts to get a little more unhinged, right? He's popular, he can kind of do what he wants. Sean Connery, he's having fun playing this, the straight-faced person in here. It's wild. And I always forget how long it takes to actually get to the part where they're disarming the missiles. Like, there's a whole action scene chase in San Francisco downtown where Sean Connery's trying to get away from everybody, and there's like a big car chase scene. I forgot how much setup it is for the actual movie. But also, it's a good time.
The prop design too of that green goo, the jelly balls. I feel like there's always some sort of MacGuffin object, in these action movies, and they're always unforgettable, right? It's like a flash drive, or it's a computer, or some sort of weird microchip. But this is like, no, it's poison. And I feel like usually you'd see that in like a canister or a syringe or something, and then somebody had the bold idea of like, no, goo balls. We're gonna put those popping jellies that you get at frozen yogurt places inside of this.
This is a huge boba container. I don't know what's going on here.
And then I was always very averse to needles as a child. So the fact that in order to not die, you have to like jam that huge thing into your heart. I was like, oh my God, I'd rather die.
yeah, exactly. It was, and it was fun for me to kind of like look. I was looking up people in this because this is a movie of like who's who, right? I'm like, oh my God, it's Michael Biehn from Terminator. Like, there's Nicolas Cage, Sean Connery, like obviously Ed Harris, but like a bunch of side characters are like real, like people you see later on. Tony Todd, who's like the voice. I think he was the voice of Venom in Spider-Man 2, and he played like the Candyman, right? He's in there as one of the henchmen. Bokeem Woodbine, who is the Shocker in Spider-Man Homecoming, is in this movie as one of the people. So like, it's just wild to watch. It's like, oh, these people were just kind of getting rocking and rolling back in the mid 90s there. And then right before we came on here, I turned on the original X-Men movie because I wanted to revisit some of that. I guess the golden age of superheroes.
You wanted to rekindle the Hugh Jackman romance that we all have.
All these characters who are probably not coming back for Deadpool, but everyone says they're coming back for Deadpool. I wanted to get a look at, right? You got but it's just funny, seeing like this movie just kind of starts off right away with the mutants being or like they're having the conversation about mutants need to be registered and all this stuff. Then you get the baby Hugh Jackman, right? Just a young dude compared to the old one we're getting now. It's so fun to see it. Then obviously, Ian McKellen just chewing scenery up as a villain, like straight villain though. Like he's like, oh, Senator Kelly, we're going to literally turn you into a mutant with my powers. So it's just fun to watch what they were playing with back in the early 2000s and kind of see that kick off here, because it did kick off one of the few movies that kicked off the acceptance of superhero movies was X-Men. Despite the fact we make fun of it now and how cheesy and schlocky it is, it did, was the first big movie. This, Blade, and Spider-Man, right, kind of did that for us. So absolutely a good time with that. But that kicks us into our first topic here, Mike. And I tied this up perfectly because it's on X-Men, and actor Bryan Cranston, as you may know from Breaking Bad or maybe the more popular show Malcolm in the Middle, has met with Kevin Feige recently. But I will say, Kevin Feige does meet a lot of generic actor meetings. I don't think everybody he meets with is up for a role. He may just be meeting them to A, throw people off, or B, just because he has that ability to meet whoever he wants in Hollywood right now, right?
Yeah, that is interesting. You bring up a good point. I wonder how many of these meetings are just to like throw off like the Hollywood Reporter and Deadline. Like, oh yeah, you want to come in for a meeting? I know you said you never want to be in a superhero movie, but it'd be kind of fun,
Can I buy you lunch?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bryan Cranston, I feel like it was so weird after finishing Breaking Bad and experiencing like honestly one of the best stories I've ever watched in my entire life. And then the roles that he kind of took after that, I don't really know what motivated a lot of them, but nothing really came close to touching what he was doing in Breaking Bad. I mean, I just remembered he was in Argyle. Fucking hated that movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he does seem to always be like a villain now.
Well, I'd say he was in.
Could he possibly be a good guy?
Well, he was. It was in. Was it Jerry and Marge Go Large? Wasn't that the couple that won the lottery money in Michigan recently? He was in that. He was in Godzilla, the 2014 movie. I'm like, I think he's split back and forth between good and bad characters. Not the quality of it, but he could be good. But he did previously in an interview say, "Hey, if you want to be in Marvel, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'd like to be someone new." But he specifically name dropped Mr. Sinister, which is very much a very close line to his Breaking Bad character, right? Instead of making meth, he's making mutant powers.
I mean, also, I would be very curious to know if somebody introduced him to the concept of Mr. Sinister, or if he read comic books back in the day and was aware of Mr. Sinister. Because I mean, Bryan Cranston's already awesome, and I feel like if he was already aware of the character just organically on his own, he'd be even cooler than he already is.
Yeah.
But I could see, I mean, Mr. Sinister, we all saw kind of him come back into our lives with X-Men 97. So, I mean, he's hot. They kept trying to make him happen over at Fox, and it never worked.
They teased him for years at Fox. For years, they were like, "We're going to give you Nathaniel Essex or Essex Corps or Mr. Sinister," but they didn't. But this also goes to what he said. He's like, "I want to play a character that you can't compare versions." He's like, "I don't want to be a Commissioner Gordon because then you'll be like, oh, you're comparing my Commissioner Gordon versus Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon kind of thing." So I was like, that's a fair assessment. You want to take a character and make it your own, and I would love to see him be Mr. Sinister. He could be a good guy. Could he be an Xavier if you put him in X-Men? Like if he's had the shaved head look before, and he's not overly too up there in age. Like you wouldn't bring back oh my gosh, I can't think of his name, Picard. But could you see him as an Xavier in that role since he's had the head shave before?
Maybe. That's a possibility.
To take away his mustache, obviously he can't, and a goatee, he can't have that. But yeah. Anyway, well, Bryan Cranston, if anyone out there has ideas of who you'd want to see him play, especially someone new who hasn't been done before, send them our way. We're interested. Moving into literally, if I had a nickel for every time someone sent me the first look at the Deadpool and Wolverine popcorn bucket this week, I could buy one with all the nickels I have.
This is what we get for constantly talking about popcorn buckets for like the last year and a half.
and I'm not complaining because I do love it, and I appreciate everyone who sent it to me, trying to be the first. Actually, I think it was my wife who got to me before everybody else did, so she's encouraging this by any means. But Ryan Reynolds / Marvel, I think Ryan Reynolds shared it first. The look at the popcorn bucket, and it is literally the head is Wolverine's head with his mask on, but the head's not open, his mouth is open, and they even gave him a little tongue on it, which like I get the mouth open, but like it's so anime and chibi looking.
Yeah, it's a gaping mouth with a tongue as well, and the tongue, they even give you a nice close-up of it, has like texture to it. So I think there might even be like multiple like levels of granularity to the tongue. And it's hilarious. Obviously I instantly thought about the fan-made popcorn buckets that artist BossLogic made a while back, which was kind of more of a traditional popcorn kind of carton with like little holes on the bottom that were acting as Deadpool and Wolverine's mouths. So you kind of like, which makes sense because it's like a merc with a mouth, and then you eat the popcorn out of it. But this kind of takes the concepting to a different level of like, this is Deadpool in the video kind of fetishizing the open mouth of Wolverine, and you reach in and grab
his face. The butter drips down his face even. I mean, it is a raunchy video by any means. And it says designed by Deadpool on the side. Like, obviously it's a poke at.
I usually, I feel like I tend to lean like anti-capitalistic, don't buy worthless plastic that you don't need.
Mm-hmm.
But also there's another part of my brain that's fighting, that loves the idea of now every big kind of action movie that comes to the theater has to encapsulize their entire concept into a single vessel. And I just think that's really, really funny. And it's going to happen because I think even AMC has stated somewhere officially that, like, oh yeah, the Dune popcorn bucket was really, really good for us. Like this is like the revenue streams that we need to like enhance more. So these popcorn buckets aren't going anywhere.
But
so it's like a fun problem solving thing.
In a capitalist world, also we can vote with our dollars for the ones we like and the ones we don't like. So
yes,
remember
this is true.
So in this situation, I think I like the idea of it. This is not one that would sit on my shelf very well if I was going to be completely honest for a popcorn bucket, like because the Wolverine face is sticking straight up. Like you turn it on its side and have the face towards you because it's
I think
square design.
Depending on the size of it, because it's kind of hard to tell on the video kind of the exact dimensions, but I think this would make a hilarious like bathroom trash can.
Oh yeah.
It's just something you could put between the wall and the toilet. It's just like a little tiny trash can.
Put a box of Kleenexes in it, so you're pulling Kleenexes out of his mouth.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Kind of deal.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, and the other thing is, obviously there's never one popcorn bucket to rule them all. I want to give us another shout out to Superfan Jim. His daughter went to the movies the other night, and they found the generic popcorn buckets, the ones like the paper ones or whatever that have, that have Deadpool and Wolverine on it that we had like the leaked images on several months ago. So,
okay.
So those are out there, but Regal also was like, oh, you think that's the only popcorn bucket we have? We're going to tease ours. So I've included our link in our video here, and it kind of looks like a Professor X chair, if you will. But at the same time, I don't know because it's a popcorn and drink holder at the same time. But I think it's a Professor X chair, Mike. What do you think looking at this?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine like what other iconic chair, exists in this universe at all. At first I was thrown because the kind of the TVA warning shows up at the end of it. And I was like, are there iconic TVA chairs? I was like, no, it has to be Professor X's chair. But they do go out of their way to not show the front of it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if like Dogpool is like sitting on the chair or something like that, because I could see them not showing the whole thing because it's like a teaser, obviously, but it seems like they're hiding something in the chair, and it's probably not a whole person because you would see them like coming up from behind. So I'm thinking we've seen Dogpool in the trailers on the marketing pretty heavily, or maybe Headpool. We've seen a floating head. So something I think is going to be in that chair. My guess would be Dogpool.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't, they have not even colored it. So my guess is it's also going to be colored differently as well. So if it is Xavier's chair with Dogpool in it, like it would be yellow when it comes out, right, at the end of the day. But the fact that it's both a popcorn bucket and a drink thing, sign me right up. I want a dual purpose thing to have in my lap while I'm watching these movies. I will say the second thing is I don't have a Regal near me. So if anyone has a Regal near them and wants to hook a brother up, reach out to me.
Well, so if we're talking, AMC and Regal, I would hope maybe one day there'll be a movie big enough to have a third popcorn bucket at like a Cinemark. Oh yeah. What else can we?
I love
popcornize?
Cinemark's my go-to theater, so absolutely. They're probably going to be like, look at the numbers of views we had on this. Who can get us a popcorn bucket in 2 months? Let's go. Let's get going. Yeah. We got to get this. Or even if it's not a popcorn, I know they did drinks stuff like Ghostbusters had special cups and toppers for that. I could get down with a special drink thing at Cinemark and a popcorn bucket from.
I think one thing that I would like to do, Chris, and maybe I'm pitching this right now on the show, we create a new page on our website where me and you are constantly in a conversation ranking the best popcorn buckets. We don't have to justify it in any clear or thought out way on the site, but it'd be cool if there was a page that they could go to and just see the popcorn buckets that have been out there in the world and where we choose to rank them, kind of like tier lists of popcorn buckets, right? Okay. I think that would be fun.
Can you embed those tier lists from the websites, the ones that are like S, A, B, C, D? Yeah.
I think you can.
Okay.
But I guess that's the next question. Do we think they need to exist within a tier, or should we make a true line in the sand and rank them from like best, first, second, third?
I think tier is fine because, like, again, I think if you start ranking them, like, I think the tier is fine because obviously if you try to rank things like this, you got to update your rankings every once in a while. I think if we just do a tier and just move the tiers around, that's a lot less work for us. I'm going to be honest. This is a lot of work already sounding. And I'm like, let's just do the tier thing. We just like move it around as we do. Like, these are the must-haves. These are the goods. These are the okays. These are the nah. And this is the what the hell were they thinking? I think is kind of what it goes down to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess before we roll on and roll away from the popcorn bucket, I will go ahead and say, I mean, everyone's probably going to think, oh, the Dune popcorn bucket, that's got to be number one.
It's
that's
not number
one.
I have one, and I don't think it's number one.
I think, honestly, I don't own it. I haven't even seen it in person, but I think that the Ghost Trap from Ghostbusters
I have that. That is
the coolest one that I've seen personally.
I would put that in my S tier, and I will tell you why for two reasons, Mike. One, it comes with a detachable popcorn holder. It's a purple thing that looks like the light coming out of the trap, so you can clean that itself rather than the whole machine. And then the trap can sit like the little things fold over and it closes up and can sit on your shelf and looks like a real ghost trap with rolling wheels and articulating knobs on it. So I absolutely agree with you entirely. I would say
now,
go ahead.
This might have to be maybe a separate tier list, or maybe we just have to kind of totally quarantine this list off to just movie theater popcorn buckets. But we do know that theme parks are heavily invested in the popcorn bucket legacy, and there is a Toyota Pixar Pizza Planet truck popcorn bucket that is
my wife
amazing.
Would have some things to say. My wife would have some things to say about this. I will say maybe it's just popcorn / drink vessels, because one of my favorite ones is actually from a Disney park. It's Thor's hammer that folds up and you put a drink in the top, so you don't have to hold your cold drink.
Maybe in order to make it onto our official superhero slate list, the popcorn bucket, if it's outside of like an AMC or a Regal or Cinemark or whatever, it has to be tied directly to a movie franchise. So if you're like at Disneyland and there's like a Figment popcorn bucket, that don't count. Like, like I don't think that is in the spirit of our list. Well, so maybe if I get a bee in my bonnet here this week, I'll start kind of collecting images for these.
Yeah, if I get some free time this week, Mike, I'll start working on that too. But
I love this.
So I like where this goes. Maybe we could just have like a midweek. You and me just get on Discord. We're gonna talk it out. We're gonna do it live with a screen share.
That'd be funny.
Assets. But yeah, awesome. If anyone has some ideas, send them our way. Absolutely love it. Thank you again for sending over all these popcorn buckets. Moving on to a topic here that we actually talked about way too much before the show because we can't believe this is happening, and it's Captain America: Brave New World is going through reshoots, minimum 22 days, but they have confirmed Giancarlo Esposito, Gus Fring himself, whoever he is in The Boys, I forget what his character name is in there. He's in Moff Gideon and The Mandalorian. He is in a Marvel movie now. He is filming currently. He loves a big gun. He loves his knives. I've also heard from people on set he has an axe under one of those trench coats in there. Mike, who's he playing?
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither. No one does.
and I feel like this spins off like a whole nother conversation of I just want to know what's happening to this movie. That's all I want to know. This is a first for us on the MCU track, where I was just talking about it last week, where we need some sort of like highlighted timeline that shows projects that have kind of been infected or trace infected by Bob Chapek's chair at the Disney Corporation. And unfortunately, this movie is one of those, and they are doing their best to fix it. And we've never seen triage like this before. Yeah. Kevin Feige has been praised in his career at Marvel for being able to find the movie in the edit, which is one of the things that he does best, and also subsequently makes the some of the TV offerings not as great on Disney Plus, because you can't really do that with TV. Right. You got to plan a lot more ahead of time, a lot more hours of content over there. But this is the first time where it seems like this movie cannot be saved in the editing because we just need to add more. When you edit something, you're primarily taking stuff out. I suppose there could be, maybe shots that you thought just can't change the story that much.
There's minimal reshoots to add little things in, right? But 22 days of reshoots is not a small task. Adding a high value big name actor in a brand new unknown role, that's a huge change, right? We've got another one we're going to talk about here. They've changed the entire look of an actor who was already in this movie, which again, according to reports, was screened last year even. So this movie is being retooled entirely, it seems like. Maybe not from the ground up, but like this is kind of like a Daredevil Reborn scenario, right? But in the film situation where like we've got to spend maybe 51% of this movie needs redone here.
Yeah. And it's like everyone out there has watched a movie before. You if you don't know of it off the top of your head, you felt it. There's a structure to every film that you've watched. And if you start to pull pieces out, you have to put pieces back in, but also make sure they connect. It's like one big puzzle. So I don't know if we'll ever quite know this, how much of the movie has changed from when it was, originally assembled. But I just desperately want to know how much is going into this. It's so, it's such a large scale too, right? I'm sure things like this have happened with other movies before, but when you have such a high profile project like this, and we know a lot is on the line for Marvel at the moment, right. I'm just curious.
And I would even say this is maybe one of those movies that requires like a documentary later, right? Like, a year or two after it's out. It's like, hey, how do we get to Brave New World? How do we go from New World Order to Brave New World kind of thing? And I would love to know as well. I don't think it's going to bother me right now. I think this is a lot of work, and they're not going to do a lot of work to make a mid movie at the end of the day. So it sounds like they've got a good idea of what they need to do to retool it. They're coming in and doing a bunch of filming, but the thing I was going to say here, Esposito, his role, he's not just in this movie. He's apparently also going to appear in a TV series, according to him. Possibly even before he shows up in Brave New World. So maybe he'll be in Daredevil Born Again, because we know they're working on that right now as well, before it comes out.
I guess that could be a possibility.
One of the characters I told Mike, the rumor is not a rumor. People are online speculating out the ass on this. So a character named Cutthroat, who has ties to the Serpent Society, who we've reported on being in this movie before. And honestly, you've seen articles, Mike, online. Are they even still in this movie, right? Why do we need the Serpent Society in this movie? And did they take them out to make it better? Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about is one of the characters that's showing up. Actually, we'll just do it now. Diamondback, played by Rosa Salazar. She was on set photos last year, 2 years ago, with blonde hair. She's now in with bright pink hair, Mike. The pinkest hair I've ever seen in my life. Gives Nicki Minaj a run for her money with how pink this is. Is now on set filming in a comic book accurate look, because Diamondback in the comic books has pink hair. So I've also included the old link so you guys can compare it to that in our show notes, because she's still got the arm tattoos. So they have really, they're even bringing characters back who've already filmed all their scenes and giving them new scenes with new looks. So it's not just, hey, we did a script rewrite. We also did some visual changes on this movie as well, right? Like visually, we're changing things to make it better.
It's just so crazy. Just imagine any Marvel movie that you've watched, maybe outside some of the larger ones that just are have tons of characters in them, right? Just imagine any movie and then just plop a new character in it. Drag and drop Carlos Esposito into Captain America Winter Soldier, right? Yeah. You can't just add a character and put them in a room, right? You can't just have a cutaway shot to him. Like, people have to talk to them. He has to have conversations with other people. There's action sequences where if he's throwing a knife or throwing an axe, it's got to hit somebody that's already been cast in the movie, right? So I'm just so curious.
I'm going to disagree with you, because that's what they did with Hawkeye in the first Thor movie. He was not in that movie. And if you watch, he's just in one of those little bird's nests or whatever, sitting up there watching Thor the whole time. If you go back and watch that movie, Hawkeye was added in post-production.
I could see that.
I'm not saying that's a good example, but they could add him in, but you're not going to be adding Like, you can't just, to your point, what you're trying to say is they're not going to put a character in who has dialogue and talking its own without refilming the other people reacting to that dialogue, right?
Yeah,
like
it just seems like we're just gonna have a totally different movie here. It just makes me nervous, you know.
It makes me unnervous based on how bad it was before on reports. Like, people are like, no, I don't like this. This is not good. It's got Chapek fingerprints all over it. Let's just retool it and do something different. They weren't doing this, and they were just like, oh, we're just gonna fix the editing. Then I would be very, very concerned. But to push it back a whole year and to do this much, I'm excited to see what they're doing with it. But the reason we have this is they're filming outside in Atlanta with the police chasing the Falcon. There's car explosions. There's hand-to-hand fight sequences. Carlos Esposito's there. So it's not like he's just on a street being filmed. He's actually doing the action scenes as well with this. So hopefully we find out who he is. I mean, once they start showing set photos, they're like, okay, I guess we're going to have to announce somebody, sooner or later for the movie. So we'll see if we get anything. We are now officially in June, and you know what happens the month after June? Comic-Con.
July?
Yes. San Diego Comic-Con is in July, so we'll see if maybe they bring some of the stuff there, Mike. And D23, do you know when D23 is? Is that this year, or is that over?
Yeah, they have one. There's one happening this year.
Okay. What month is that in? Do you know?
August, maybe?
August 9th.
August, September?
Yeah, August 9th in Anaheim. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll see if they maybe save some of this stuff for D23 along the way as well. But
could be.
We'll know. Moving on, this is the rumor zone. This is not as hard and fast as we just talked about, but Thunderbolts, the rumor is that the characters Yelena, U.S. Agent, Ghost, and Taskmaster are sent to eliminate a target in a vault and then realize they are sent there to essentially not make it out / die in this vault. So this is where I put the asterisk. Is this the Sentry character? Are they going down to kill the Sentry and then find out, obviously there's a Sentry there and he's much stronger than them? The rumor is also that they team up to bring down Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, otherwise known as Val, going forward. But would she maybe enlist the Sentry as a bodyguard against the team in that situation? So the rumors are, obviously the Sentry is going to be on one side of this or the other, but it seems to be a little Suicide Squad-y, if you will, at the top there.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious how this movie is going to carve out its own original take on kind of a group of anti-hero / heroes. Because I was also thinking of the last season of The Boys as well, where they find, I don't even remember the guy's name, but the Captain America equivalent in the Boys universe.
Is it Golden Boy?
Golden Boy? Maybe? That sounds about right.
Yeah.
But
like
very kind of similar things happening there with like overpowered hero that's been locked up and,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious how they're going to find their own way, tell their own original story. But I know you're excited, Chris. Any news on this show that has the word "the Sentry" in it?
Yeah,
we're off to a good start.
I'm doing that. I also feel like the more I read about this, the more it feels like this is like maybe a sequel to Black Widow more than the Winter Soldier or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? With everything that's kind of going on, like sounds like obviously you want to use Florence Pugh, the biggest name actress in here, so it feels like it could be a Black Widow sequel, especially with Val being there at the end of Black Widow. So we're going to see what this looks like. There's a lot of questions, but they are filming it. I'm very excited to kind of see where this kind of goes down to, and see what goes on in this movie as they keep going forward. I guess we'll know more. They'll probably show some footage at Comic-Con, and they'll have to fight online to see who leaked it for me. So we'll see who does that. And surprising reports for me is that Thor 5 is looking to film fall 2025 for a post-Secret Wars release. So they're now searching for a writer or director right now. Maybe more director than a writer. They probably have some story ideas already, but they're looking to do this. And it ties into our next bullet point here. But I was like, why Thor? And two things kind of popped up, Mike. Right. This is surprising me. I didn't think they'd do a Thor 5, if I'm going to be completely honest. But if you go back and listen to what Bob Iger says, they're returning to characters that are proven, right? At Marvel, focus on franchises. Thor, The Love and Thunder, despite it being critically not the best Thor movie, As we said, it's fine. It's just a fun little watch. It's nothing serious. Compared to Thor Ragnarok, which was much better before it. It made more money domestically. Thor: Love and Thunder did than Ragnarok. Still over 760 million worldwide, which makes it the second highest Thor movie. So they probably saw those dollar signs, and especially with merchandise, and like, Thor is a viable franchise. We just can't have Taika Waititi touch it again, right? So
I have two thoughts on this bit of news. First of all, are we really supposed to be getting Secret Wars before 2025 or at some point in time?
No, this is filming 2025 to release in like 2027. So Secret
Wars. Okay, I was gonna.
Sorry. This is not releasing 2025. It's filming 2025. So they have about a year.
I was gonna say we haven't even gotten this Kang Avengers movie yet.
No, sorry. No, this is it's going to release post Secret Wars, but they have to film it in 25 to do that.
And I feel like second is I feel like the MCU was always good at pulling punches for the sake of revealing something bigger later. I feel like the art of the tease in the MCU was palpable in those first couple phases of like, oh, you're not ready for what we teasing. Just get ready. And I feel like now they're like, we need to get people back to the theaters. We need to bring the art of the tease back, and we can't hold some of these characters back anymore. So I got to imagine that if there's going to be a Thor 5 in that trailer, if we don't see Beta Ray Bill already, like you gotta invigorate the fan base. You gotta get people who are, more novices of watching this trailer going, what is this weird horse character? This is wild. You need something like that to invigorate the Thor franchise. Just, a character that we've all been waiting for already. Just give us Beta Ray Bill already.
And he has his own hammer, which was called Stormbreaker actually in the comic books. They can't do it now, but post multiversal, if all the multiverses merge into one, there's one prime universe or whatever they want to call it, having Beta Ray Bill show up with the hammer and being an antagonist to Thor, and then friends that later, once they figure out. I think that's a great buddy story, right? Like, I would love to see two hammers going to town at it. Them fighting full, using all their power rather than just, Thor: Love and Thunder. It's just too silly. Him talking to the axe, like being jealous of Mjolnir, was kind of weird along the way. So we need to get back to Thor being an action star, being a badass, and just kind of really showcasing that he is a god, right, in the universe. So I agree with you. Beta Ray Bill, one of my other favorite characters. I enjoy Beta Ray Bill. On the same note, apparently they have a writer/script, or at least an early script, for a Scarlet Witch movie, and now they're looking for a director for the syllabus movies that would release before Secret Wars. So this would be in one of those gaps. Remember when we saw the timeline years ago, and they had some gaps before Secret Wars? This would be one of those movies in there. And again, I for Thor, I used the numbers because I don't have enough numbers for Scarlet Witch, but based on the announcement of the Vision movie or Vision series recently last week, and the success of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and people saying we want more Scarlet Witch, WandaVision, this is a character who's viable. Bring her back one more time, and then bring her into Secret Wars, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, she's great. I just started rewatching Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness during my workout, so working through it chunk by chunk, and she's such a powerful part of that movie. I mean, we had some complaints of the character she was playing didn't quite line up with where she ended in WandaVision, so there's still some kind of unanswered questions there, but still, if you look at it, just on its own, she's great in it. I love her power set. It's visually interesting to see on screen. By the time she has a movie coming out, like you said, we maybe would have a Vision show in the bucket. We would have a Agatha show in the bucket. More witch stuff that they can kind of play off on in a feature film.
And she has proven she's one of the few characters who has a multiversal variant already, right, from Doctor Strange, when she goes to that universe where her kids are still alive, if you will. So they could pull from multiversal variants that maybe the Scarlet Witch is getting a different, maybe it's not the MCU's version, it's another version. So they have a lot of things they could do with it. But I think she could be instrumental in using her magic to create the planet for Secret Wars at the end of the day.
Yeah, maybe.
So I do. I don't want to see it after Secret Wars. I think beforehand would be great. But they are looking at these characters who have viability, and Thor, moneymaker, send him out on a good note. Scarlet Witch, moneymaker, send her out on a good note. Right? I think that's what you want to have here, and that's fine with me. Deathstroke, we talked about at the top of the show. James Gunn has quote unquote confirmed plans to have Deathstroke in the DCU by using a winky emoji on Threads. So
yes, he has winked to us.
Please wink if you have plans for Deathstroke. I'm waiting for my boy to shine for so long. No one's waiting for Deathstroke. You know how much content you have with Deathstroke out there, people? Like, go watch all of Arrow. Arrow was about Deathstroke. He was, mind you, in the end credit scene of the Snyderverse movie was Batman v Superman. But like, we've seen Deathstroke out there beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Manganiello in the suit looked really, really cool. We never got to see him do anything. I mean, Deathstroke is a really, really cool character. But I wouldn't say like I'm dying to see him on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's such a whiplash, right? We're talking about this, very late in stage Marvel storylines and characters, bringing in these obscure people. And then we're shifting drastically over to DC of like, oh, Deathstroke, one of the like mainstays of, the DC villains. And we haven't even gotten that on the screen yet. Like the Marvel equivalent of Deathstroke was in Marvel a long time ago. Yeah. So it's a fun whiplash in my head happening.
I think also, and I don't know because I didn't watch Titans. I think he was in Titans as well, the TV show, because obviously he has a history with Titans. He was the villain of Teen Titans Go to the Movies, right? Deathstroke, voiced by.
Was it Joe Manganiello?
No. It's the comedian guy from Arrested Development, the brother.
Will Arnett.
Will Arnett. So absolutely, he's been around forever. He's a lot of stuff. But if there's a very heavily rumored live action Teen Titans movie in the works at DCU, this would totally go against Gods and Monsters, the part 1. So we'll see if it comes to fruition. But if they are working on Teen Titans movie, then my guess is a live action Teen Titans movie would use their traditional villain Deathstroke as the main villain in that movie. So I don't know. I think Teen Titans would be interesting if they. I didn't watch Titans. I don't know if that got any good later in its 5 seasons, but like, love to see them maybe branch out a little bit in some of these other things. Maybe Young Justice, right, instead of Teen Titans along the way, but we'll see. Also, one of the late additions to, I believe it was Legends of Tomorrow, was Booster Gold, played by Donald Faison. Is that how you pronounce his name? The guy from Scrubs. Mm-hmm. So they're looking to cast Booster Gold for this TV series, and the 3 frontrunners for the role rumored to be Dylan Playfair, who's known from one of the hockey boys from Letterkenny, Fionn Whitehead, known for Dunkirk and some other movies, and then Patrick Schwarzenegger, who was recently in Gen V. Looks like they're going with just a muscly young white dude to play Booster Gold with some blonde hair. At the end of the day,
I didn't even know the guy from Gen V. Is he like a Schwarzenegger? Oh yeah, he is the son of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. One of them.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Booster Gold. We talked about having Blue Beetle, Xolo. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm going to butcher it, but the guy from the movie is going to be in there. So the guy in Booster Gold. Mm-hmm. Booster Gold is a character who has essentially what's it called? Imposter syndrome. He's supposedly a superhero from the future, but he just stole a bunch of technology in a time machine and came back, and he's pretending to be a superhero, even though he never was one, but he accidentally, I guess, becomes one along the way. So, if you look at Booster Gold, he's just, got a blue and yellow suit, big yellow goggles, and some blonde hair kind of going on here. I don't even, they've not really truly announced this show, so I have nothing else to go on, but Dylan Playfair from Letterkenny he's pretty funny. I can't see him being in this role, but that's just he's that.
I'm rooting for him just because it's the most out of the box. I never would have thought in the back of my head to go that direction. So go that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see that, and especially the Blue Beetle. The actor was relatively unknown as well, so kind of go that route. Lastly, something that's exciting / sad at the same time is the final season of Umbrella Academy. Season 4 is coming on August 8th, and we have our first trailer for this, and it's in a different universe yet again, because that's how the seasons end and start in the Umbrella Academy. But they don't seem to really, the family's all there, everyone's alive again, but they don't seem to really have their powers or their memory. Maybe it's just more powers, but I'm excited to watch this show and see how it wraps up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I watched the trailer, and this is the downside of the binge model of it's just been so long since I've watched an episode of Umbrella Academy that I forgot how much I love the show.
Yeah.
Like, I love Umbrella Academy so much. I after I watched the trailer, I was watching some related clips, so I rewatched like the Footloose dancing scene, which is just a great encapsulation of the show in general, because you get to see all the characters do their own kind of like dancing and just the tone of the show. And I mean, Umbrella Academy and The Boys are kind of some of the best superhero stuff on television right now, and they're both coming back this year, which makes me very excited. It's nice to see Umbrella Academy getting a 4th season. They're going to wrap it up. You know, it's coming from the perspective of this is the final season. There's not going to be any sort of like cliffhanger where Netflix cancels it. Yeah. So it's nice that it's going to be a whole complete story, which is something we rarely get. And I do kind of wonder, I don't know if Netflix is kind of in this position anymore with them trying to kind of curb budgets and maximize profits phase of the company, but I feel like in another version of Netflix, maybe we would have like a spin-off announced by now, you know, of one of these characters, because the show's so popular.
Yeah, well, the thing is, and I put it here, like, they've actually, like, the writer Gerard Way and the artists, I can't think of the artist's name, they haven't made any more books, so they're out of books to follow. Like, even this one is not based on a comic book, so they're kind of free-forming it here. So, absolutely, I'd love to see, you know, I get more content, but I am happy to know that it is hey, we told the story we want to tell. We're going to end it on the note we want to end it, and we don't have to worry about setting things up for another character kind of in a different universe. Because I would love to see what number 5, like his like, since he can time travel and all that stuff, like I would love to see like, oh hey, here's an episode of how he got to the future and like lived in a different timeline from the first season, right? Stuff like that, because he's like essentially a 60-year-old in a 12-year-old's body along the way. But at the same time, it's not. I love the. I included the logo on our live stream here, and they're using like orange, green, yellow, and red as like the colors, like kind of like a stoplight kind of thing. And they've not really leaned into that a little bit. That's kind of new for them to have different colors in the branding.
Yeah, I think they seem to pick like a pretty strong branding motif every season, which I think is pretty cool. And they seem to be doing like metro subway stops with this one. I would assume that leans into the idea that, if I remember right, from the end of the last season, all of the characters have been separated from one another. So they're all going to be living their own unique lives, and they may or may not remember each other. So I'm guessing that this is like a subway map of them trying to come back together and rekindle. And there's a shot in the trailer which is just hilarious, where they're all in this like rickety old van, and then there's like Diego's getting like pumped in the front seat. He's happy to have everyone back together. So this is great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, August 8 on Netflix. I'm excited to dive in, check it out, and we'll probably talk about it after that comes out. But that's it, Mike. That's the show for this week. We got a nice little tight show. Not a lot of news, but still pretty good stuff. But if people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you, buddy?
Oh, they can read my webcomics at liferewardsrisk.com and pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where are you?
I am on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or Video Game Systems of the same name. If people know more about the shows, they can come back and listen to us every week, except in 2 weeks. We're taking a week off in 2 weeks, but we'll be back next week. Where can they find all them goodies at?
Oh, you just have to head over to superheroslate.com. That is the place where we store all of our popcorn buckets at superheroslate.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you'd love to listen to fine podcasts. We got merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. If you know of any obscure popcorn buckets, let us know. They don't even have to fall within like the TV or movie kind of genre. I'm just like popcorn bucket pilled, and I just want to know more about popcorn buckets. So if you have any weird ones from the past that you think are interesting enough, let us know, and we'll bring them up on the show, obviously. But we love our super fans, so if you want to be a super fan of this show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.